Am I the idiot for not sharing my stepdad's inheritance with my brother? My, female 25, dad passed away when I was very young and my mom married my stepdad Lee when I was 5. Lee is wealthy and my mom never had to work, and I was given everything growing up. The only thing Lee never received was acceptance from Lee's family. They were not pleased that Lee chose to marry a widow with a child. Lee and I were close and he continued to care for me even after my brother Sam, 18, was born. My mom clearly favored Sam and didn't really focus much on me. Lee's relatives warmed up to my mom a little with the birth of Sam, but I was still treated like something invisible. Sam was often invited to Lee's relatives' houses to play, and he and I are not very close. I decided to go to university overseas and Lee gave me enough money that I didn't have to work or worry financially. He also was the only one calling/writing to me regularly. I talked to my mom/Sam like once every couple of months during my university days. After graduation, Lee wanted me to come home, but I wanted to work and be on my own for a bit. The pandemic happened and I was unable to fly back. When the lockdown was over, my family came to visit me once and left when I preferred to continue working where I am. Lee came to visit me a few more times by himself. A few months ago, Lee passed from a disease he never let anyone know he had. In his will, he left his businesses and house and most valuables to his relatives. My mom almost nothing, though she can keep what he has already given her: 2 cars, jewelry, and cash $60,000. My mom never legally married him. Sam $150,000 and the rest of the money to me. It was 7-figure USD, a life-changing amount. Turns out Sam is not Lee's biological child, which he found out only recently. My mom and Sam were mad, of course, and demanded that I share money with them. I said I'm willing to put the money in some low-risk investments, and we can split the gain. Not good enough. They want at least 25% each of what Lee left me. I argued that it's not like they are left destitute. Sam can still go to a good university, if he cares enough for further education, and my mom has enough money to get her own place, and the investments will give us all long-term incomes. They called me greedy and planned to take legal action, but Lee's relatives told them that they could make my mom and Sam's lives very difficult if they tried to give me a hard time and go against Lee's wishes. I intend to do as I promised them, splitting the gains from the investment with my mom and Sam. I won't let them touch the money Lee left me though, because I don't trust them to not go through that money in just a few years. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. You aren't his biological daughter, but the daughter he chose. Splitting the gains is already nice from you. But don't give your mother too much, otherwise she will pay a lawyer to sue you. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Keep the money you inherited, and do what you want with it. And please talk with a tax advisor for your country before proceeding with your plan to split the gains from the investments. Remember that because those investments will be in your name, you're likely the one to be liable for the taxes on those gains. Now for the update. I talked to a lawyer. I told her my plan to continue living overseas and that I planned on going to low contact with my mom and brother. She said I should set aside money for my mom and brother in the form of a trust fund. They will be paid X amount per month, the dividend from low-risk investments, but can't touch anything else. I don't trust them both with a huge amount of money, so this way they will always have a steady income in their lives. I know this is against Lee's wishes, but I just need to take care of them this last time. I already have a will set up that everything will go to charities. I make decent money at my job, so I set up a will a while back. My family knew this when everyone visited me that one time. Sam still has a year of school before university, so he should still be living with my mom in the meantime. My mom has a room in a high-rise that Lee gave to her a while back, so they should be fine with a place to live. I plan to support Sam's university expenses. He's not academically inclined, but in our culture he will definitely be pushed to go to university. I'm still working with my lawyer to see how that can be without having to get too heavily involved. As to why Lee never found out about Sam, my mom is mixed race while both of her children's fathers and Lee are the same race. Sam and I look like her, so it's hard to tell. Don't know why Lee decided to investigate after all this time. He was to blame for Sam being spoiled, too, with how much he had been letting Sam spend over the years. My mom is 10+ years younger than Lee. Maybe that's why she had the affair. She has a university degree, so she can find a job if she wants. Her jewelry should be worth near 6 figures though, so there's always that. Lee's relatives took his intentions seriously. Ever since Sam became more problematic in his teens, the relatives tolerated him for their blood connections. Now that he is not, my mom and Sam are instantly in their bad book, I guess. Once this mess is more settled, I'm thinking of asking my workplace for a relocation. A change of scenery should be nice. I like my job, so I think I will continue working, but maybe my vacations can get a little more extravagant from now. Thank you. Comment 1. You're the idiot. Your selfishness is appalling. Despite being raised with privilege and given everything by your stepdad, you refuse to share even a fraction of your inheritance with your own family. Your mom and brother deserve better treatment from you. Money isn't everything, and your lack of empathy is truly disturbing. You should be ashamed of yourself. Comment 2. The money was willed to you. You are under no obligation to share it with anyone, least of all to those who only think they are entitled to have it. You are already being generous with your plan of giving them a part of the proceeds from investments in order to support them. It's not your fault if they continue to think that they deserve more and choose to be disappointed with what you give. So think nothing more of it and live your life to its fullest. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for abandoning my siblings? I, 17, female, am the oldest of 3 living with my 2 siblings, 14 female and 10 male, and our mother. Our father left when my brother was born, and afterwards we moved states closer to family for help. Since then I've been helping my mom with raising my siblings the best I can. We've had family come over to help when I was busy and my mom was at work, but for the most part it was just the 4 of us. When we moved, I was placed back in school as soon as I could be. I've always been more quiet than most, and living in a new state only made the social awkwardness worse. But eventually, I met another girl around my age, and we started to become good friends. The girl, Alana, and I started doing a lot together. It only took a couple years, if not less, to be considered like family. A little over 5 months ago, Alana and I started dating. We took it very slow, and kept it to ourselves. Last month when we hit 5 months, she convinced me to tell my mom. She was fine with the ex-boyfriends I've had, and based on prior comments seemed to support the LGBTQ+ community. Last Sunday, I decided to tell her. Alana spent the night, because she wanted to be with me when I told my mom. So in the morning we both sat her down with us at the dining room table. When we told her, she freaked out. She said all sorts of angry things at us. My girlfriend and I tried to keep our cool, but before the conversation was over I was in tears and she was clearly pissed. That was the only time I've ever swore at my mother. I left the house for a few hours. I needed to relax and calm down before making any hasty decisions. When I returned later, I opened the door to see my suitcase packed and sitting next to the couch. I took the hint, grabbed it, and left again. I've been staying with Alana since, but it's difficult because her parents don't know about us either, and they just know my mom and I got into an argument. This week my phone's been blowing up with family members criticizing me for leaving my siblings and mom like that. I can only assume they've been given one half of the story, but maybe I'm wrong. My mom hasn't called or messaged since. I feel sorry, but at the same time I don't know if she understands how she hurt me. So Reddit, am I the jerk here? Now for a few comments before the update. Oh sweetie. Not the idiot. Have a virtual mom hug. Your actual mom sucks and I would very much like to shake some sense into her. Put her on blast to your family. Let them know she kicked you out and why. Either you'll find allies or it doesn't matter because those bridges are burning anyway. If your school has a GSA, reach out to the teacher sponsor. They should be able to direct you to help. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Any parent who packs a suitcase for a 17-year-old just because they aren't straight is the idiot. Now for the update. Firstly, I called my father. Our relationship is strained, being separated and not seeing each other often, but he's made it to some of my bigger events since the divorce. Double digits, sweet 16, mostly birthday stuff but sometimes other things. He never wanted us to move away, just felt he couldn't handle a 3rd kid at the time. I digress. I called him, and it went to voicemail. I found myself crying into the phone as I relived the past 2 weeks, but I made sure to word it as, "Mom kicked me out because I have a girlfriend." He called back a few hours later and said he'd see what he can do to help, and will keep me updated, and asked me to do the same. Secondly, on Tuesday, I talked to Alana about us telling her parents. Between people saying I should get their support, and those saying I shouldn't in fear of more backlash, it wasn't an easy choice. I was hoping in the worst case scenario, my dad would be able to help. And in the best case, we'd have 3 adults rooting for us. She was hesitant, seeing how things went with my mom, but ultimately agreed. We sat her parents down similarly to my mom. When I say we, I really mean she did most of the talking. I was still worried things would go wrong. She started off by simply explaining why I've been here for over a week during class finals. We tried coming out to my mom, which created an argument and led to me getting kicked out. Her father said he wished we had told him sooner, and I'm sorry for failing you too, for making this feel like an unsafe place to be who you are. Alana's stepmom and dad talked for a few minutes before coming back with new rules. They wanted their couch back. If that meant dusting off the air mattress from when we were kids, or just getting some extra blankets, they didn't really care. We do us, so long as it isn't illegal and we don't get into trouble. But that said, since I was now under their roof in a slightly less temporary way, I'd have to start following the same rules Alana did. Curfew grades, things like that. All of which I agreed to. Her parents are going to take us back to my house today. I want to give my mom another chance. I mean, I don't get how you can just walk away from someone after your entire life. I'm either going to get the documents I need, or my mom back. In the latter case, I still don't know if I'm going to go back to sleeping there quite yet. I'm still hurt. After talking to my sister, she understands and would rather me stay away if needed. My brother's a little confused, but says he just wants us all to be happy. Thank you all again for your overwhelming support and advice. Comment 1. OP, you should not go back to that awful place except to grab your stuff. You deserve so much better than bio mom. Your girlfriend's dad gets that and is trying to make his home safe and accepting for you. Take it and run. You will be a massive idiot to yourself if you move back in with bio mom. Comment 2. OP, please listen to the other posters. It's not safe for you back there. Please stay away and stay safe. Protect your emotions and your heart. Sending you hugs and the promise that it gets better. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling a school nurse I don't need a second opinion from an American doctor for a diagnosis made in Spain? I, female 17, moved from Spain to the US with my parents a year ago. I have a very rare and severe neurological condition, which is itself a subtype of a more common and less debilitating condition. When I say rare, I mean a 0.0001% occurrence rate. I was diagnosed in Spain a year ago, before we moved. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. They ran all the tests possible, even experimental ones. I eventually saw a specialist who's extremely well known in his field. He made the diagnosis and gave me a prescription. I went from 2 episodes a day to less than 1 a month. Now for the issue. A week ago, a new head nurse was hired at my high school. As an at-risk student, she asked to meet me. When I started describing my situation, she interrupted me, saying, I know, name of the more common condition, cut it short. Since it's on a whole other level in terms of gravity and rarity, I still went ahead and described it. She interrupted me again and said, This diagnosis is very unusual. Are you sure about it? I know a very good doctor. You sure don't want to have a second opinion from an American doctor? She stressed America. I told her that all the tests were run a year ago, the diagnosis fits perfectly and the medication is working. I finally said that. Am I the idiot for choosing not to pay for my daughter's university fees despite paying for her brother's? My male 57, daughter Jane, female 21, has recently been accepted into the university of her choice. Now me and my wife, female 55, are glad with this news. The only thing is that Jane got accepted to do an English degree. Now Jane, compared to her 2 brothers Mark, male 28, and Leo, male 30, was quite late in applying to university. When me and my wife asked her to start at 18, she claimed that she was not ready and wanted to have a little rest. A little rest being going out with friends and traveling the whole of last year with her boyfriend. It should be noted that I supplied Jane with all the money needed for her little rest. Now me and my wife have nothing against Jane doing what she did. She's young and young people live to explore and do what they do. However, before me and my wife allowed for Jane to do her thing, we made her promise that when she did apply to university it was for a degree that was worth it. Jane was going through a weird phase where she wanted to be many things that were more on the creative side. Fast forward a year later, we find out that Jane's gone behind our backs and applied for an English degree. Both Leo and Mark took medical degrees and are now very good, well-paid doctors. One would think that this would motivate Janet to go on the same path, but instead she has decided to be herself. I sat down Jane last night and told her that if she decided to go through with the English degree, I would not support her at all and that she would have to take out her own student loan. At this she began crying, claiming that I was the worst dad ever and had always favored her brothers over her because I had paid for their university fees. Now this is totally incorrect. I did literally pay for her travel all of last year. My sons think that I'm being too harsh and that I should simply support Jane regardless of what she chooses. But is it too much to ask of my daughter to follow through with an actually useful degree? Edit. No, my daughter's year of travel does not add up to her brother's tuition fees, not even close. For those wondering, I work as a cardiologist. Not wanting my daughter to do an English degree is not because I'm sexist, but because I want her to do something useful which she can live off instead of depending on me for the rest of her life. I don't even know if this is something she really wants to do, or if it's another way of trying to rebel against me. Now, for a few comments before the update. You're the idiot. If it was because you paid an equal amount to her travels as her brother's education, I would say NTA. But because she chose a degree you disapprove of, you are punishing her. Also, I have an English degree. Sure, I don't earn as much as a doctor, but I've been a librarian for 10 years and have helped thousands of people. My pay is enough to keep me housed, fed, and comfortable. Comment 2. You're the idiot. Not everyone wants to do a medical degree. It's hard, it's long, and it leads you to being a doctor, which isn't for everyone. An English degree is a good degree. It's not a silly degree or a useless degree. I totally understand why she says you favored her brothers. This is clear proof of that. Now for the update. I would like to start by saying that I appreciate all the comments that were given, however unpleasant they were. They helped me understand that I was in the wrong, and some provided me with advice on what I should do if I wanted to keep in contact with my daughter. I realized that I was living too much in the past and wasn't taking into consideration how much things have changed in the last 30 years. My father worked as an artist, paintings, and had little to no business. The only thing that saved my family from absolute poverty was my mother working in a supermarket. I guess I was afraid of such things happening to Jane. Now, I hadn't talked to Jane about her degree until last Thursday. When I brought the topic up, she confessed to me that she was ready to take one of the degrees I had recommended to her. I told her there was no need to, and she looked at me as if I was playing a cruel joke. I reassured her that I was being serious, and she began crying, due to happiness. I realized that I may have been favoring my sons due to their obedience to follow what I asked of them, and was punishing Jane for being herself rather than fitting into whatever I decided to make of her. Jane will be attending Oxford Uni later in the year to take her degree, and the relationship between us has never been better. I am highly appreciative of all the comments on my previous post. They helped me see how much I was prioritizing financial gain over my daughter's well-being, something which should have never been a question in the first place. Comment 1. This is what I love to see, assholes taking the judgment they've been given and deciding to change for the better rather than staying stubborn. Wishing you and your daughter the best, OP. Comment 2. Oxford is arguably the best university in the world. A degree in playing Candy Crush from Oxford would probably help set you up for life. Now, for the next story. Would I be an idiot if I set boundaries with my mom about my son? This is gonna be a long one, so buckle up. I gave birth 6 weeks ago to my first child, a little boy. My mom was over the moon excited. I knew she might have a little trouble with boundaries, but it has gotten so much worse than I thought. For starters, she accidentally, whether truly an accident or not, I don't know, calls herself mom. My dad has even done it. He said, "I'll hand you to Mimi," her name instead of grandma. He then proceeded to hand him to her even though I asked for him. In addition, she won't let me hold him or do anything for him when I am at her house. If I try to feed him, she jumps in and takes over. If he's laying down and wakes up and starts crying, she rushes to comfort him instead of giving me a chance. If I say, "Let me see him," she very seriously asks me why. I usually follow up with, "Because he's my son." She'll be very hesitant to hand him back, and it'll usually take a minute or two. She also constantly says she loves me and my brothers, but she loves my baby more than us. She constantly implies her love for him supersedes the love my wife and I have for him. I have been recovering from a C-section for the past 6 weeks, and I am returning to my job next week. She is going to be at my daycare. I am worried her lack of boundaries will result in him getting far too attached to her and not as attached to us. Now, you may be saying, "Of course you wouldn't be the idiot for setting boundaries because that's what my wife says." I feel really bad because she had a hysterectomy after she gave birth to me because of cancer when she desperately wanted more kids. She sees this as an opportunity to live vicariously through me. She also has untreated mental health issues that have not really been addressed by our family. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. For wanting to set boundaries. Now this may make me unpopular, But after everything you said here, I feel you would be an idiot if you let her babysit. There is absolutely no way that she's going to respect your boundaries. I think she will make this situation much worse if you are correct and she has untreated MH issues. She's going to view herself as the mom, and that's how she's going to have your son refer to her. She's actually doing it right now, in front of you. You honestly believe she's going to do as you wish when you're not around to supervise them? If she is your daycare and this goes south, you will have only yourselves to hold accountable. Letting someone in her situation, with her frame of mind, watch your son is like leaving an addict, who is not in any treatment, with their favorite drug and expecting them to not use it because you told them not to. Now for the update. I took everyone's advice to heart. I only have ever wanted to keep my son safe and happy. I sat my mom down with my wife, and we tried to have a civil discussion about boundaries. She flipped the EFF out and started accusing us of taking him away from her. She said things like, "How do you expect me to just not love him?" We decided then we were gonna limit contact between him and her. We are financially in a place now where a licensed daycare is available to us. Although since I receive WIC and other benefits, I want to reach out and see if we can receive assistance at all. I have not taken him completely out of her life. However, I am much more firm with her. Like some of you said, I demanded she change her nickname to Grandma instead of Mimi. I would repeat things firmly such as, "I am his mother and I am taking my baby now." However, she has not let up with her obsession over him. She regularly refers to him as our baby when bragging about him. She has actually gotten worse and now criticizes everything I do as a mother. She is very quick to get upset when he reacts positively to me, since you know, I am his mom, and doesn't react the same to her. I am considering going completely no contact with her for this reason. However, it may take a bit because I have to separate myself from her in a lot of ways. I just wanted to update and thank everybody for the advice. It really woke me up to the fact that I was thinking of her and her needs over the health and safety of my son. Edit. Alrighty, buckle up. I know everyone wants to know how much of a nightmare she is. Her and my wife work at the same job, should have mentioned that. It makes it way more complicated to separate from her. My wife is trans and is not out to anybody but me, my mom, and a few of her friends. Well, today my mother informed me, in confidence, that she outed my wife to her HR director. This is like a Lifetime movie, but it just keeps getting worse and worse. She put my wife's job at risk, making it so if she lost her job it would be harder for us to support our child. I think that she has a bigger plan for all of this. Comment 1. I'm sorry you are going through this. I had a similar experience with my mom, although my mom was pretty tame compared to yours. She started giving him a nickname that I hated and had to be very forceful about. I had to hammer home some boundaries, which resulted in her crying to my dad and sister. Then I had to set my dad and sister straight too. It was an uncomfortable time. I ultimately threatened to move hundreds of miles away, and then everyone started to behave. I was consistent with boundaries, and I think that's why everyone started to behave better with me and my son. Comment 2. Also make sure your daycare knows to never release your child to her even if she claims there has been an emergency. No contact, I think, is the best bet. And make sure actions have consequences if you eventually re-allow contact. Every time you refer to Grandma as Mom, we will immediately leave and you are on a 2-week timeout. Anytime you do not immediately hand over my son when I ask, we will leave and go no contact for a week, etc., etc. You need to do this now before she could possibly try to sue for grandparent rights. Check your local laws. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my sister she needs to pay for child care or I'm not going to her wedding? My 25 female sister's wedding, 28 female, is in a couple months. She recently sent out inventions. I was invited as a regular guest, not a bridesmaid or MOH, since we live a state apart, and obviously there's a certain level of involvement and time that goes into being part of a bridal party, which I understand. I want to be there for my sister, and obviously I'd like to see her get married. But the problem is, I'm a single mom. My son is 6, and when he's not at school I need to be home watching him, so being out for hours at a time isn't really in the cards for me right now. My sister's wedding is child-free. Since it's taking place in her state, I need to commute, and I'd probably have to be gone from my house for 2 full days. I can't have my family watch my son since they'll all be at the wedding. And I don't really have friends who will babysit for 2 days. I contacted my sister and asked if she'd be willing to let my son come to the wedding with me, and explained he couldn't be left alone so young and that I didn't have anyone to watch him. She responded by telling me her no children policy was strict and she wouldn't make exceptions. I explained my situation again and said I'd need some form of child care or to bring him with me. I then asked her if she would pay me to hire a nanny or babysitter to watch him. She got offended and said, "Children and weddings are both parts of life. And I need to just figure it out. It's my kid, my problem." Which sure, that's true, but also, her wedding, her making it a problem by not allowing me to bring my kid. I told her she could either pay for my child care or I wouldn't be going to her wedding. All she did was call me ridiculous and entitled. She said she shouldn't have to pay for my child and that part of being an adult is knowing how to take care of that kind of thing. I think that's ridiculous. Money is tight. Child care is expensive. I can't magically afford for someone to watch my 6-year-old and most people would just let me bring him to the wedding. My sister says she's definitely not paying for child care, and I guess you're not going to the wedding then. My whole family is mad at me for not being there for my sister. Am I the idiot? Edit. I think some people are misunderstanding the post, so I'll be more clear. I'm not trying to force my sister to pay for anything, and it's totally fine if I can't come, she accepts that, and I just don't go. It only became a problem when my entire family came after me for not going to the wedding. I'm not mad at my sister for not paying, I'm mad at her for turning the family against me and saying, "Me doesn't want to come to the wedding," and complaining about me behind my back to my parents. She complained about me not going to the wedding as if I was purposely avoiding it. There's no updates, so here's the comments. You're the idiot. I get where you're coming from, but you went about this all wrong. I'm sorry, but it's not within my budget to travel so far and also arrange to pay for child care when I get there. I'll do my best. Full stop. Don't ask for handouts from a stressed out bride. Is that what people do? Good Lord. If she's gracious, she or the family will offer a solution. But you don't ask for that. That's where the entitlement came from. In the end, the kid is your responsibility, no one else's, not the idiot. She is right, your child, your problem, your circumstances dictate that the only solution is staying with him, as all other alternatives she has rejected, so your problem, your solution, and if she doesn't like it, that's her problem. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like. It really helps the channel grow. See you next time. Am I the idiot for telling my wife that my son is not a replacement for our dead baby? I know the title sounds really cruel, and maybe it was, and I'm wrong, but I don't mean for it to be. I, 37, have known my wife Janica, 39, since we were both in high school, and I've loved her since I was 13. When I was 21, I was just a boy when my father died and my life spiraled and I broke up with Janica. I had to grow up fast to support my grandparents, mom and sister. Even though we came from a rich family, I had to prove I could run the family. I made mistakes, and one of those was not treating my new girlfriend AITA at the time properly. I neglected her, cheated on her, yelled at her, and was a terrible person who tried to justify his bullshit by saying I miss my dad. I still miss him every day. After I got therapy and realized how wrong I treated her, I tried to reach out and apologize, but this was 2005. It was easy to disappear. She was gone. Janica and I have 2 daughters aged 8 and 5. Early last year we were going to have a 3rd child, but my wife was in a car accident involving black ice late into her pregnancy, and our son died before he could be born. For a year my wife cried herself to death every night. We have been to therapy for individuals and couples, but it did not help. Then in January I learned about my son Arian, 15. His mom died a month prior from some cancer, and his grandparents could not afford to support him, so they wanted a DNA test. But the boy looks just like my father, so of course he's my son. I took him in without the test and my wife latched onto him. She showered him with gifts, made him special lunch every day, our daughters get cafeteria food, and tried to help him with homework to the point that our daughters got jealous. It really cuts me that I wasn't there for him. That I couldn't show him love, be there to change his diapers, help him when he was sick, take videos of him. I want to blame his mom, but he loved her, and she's dead, so I can't. We've been to therapy together, just he and I, and last week it broke my heart when he told the therapist he wished he died instead of his mom, because I felt the same way when my dad died, and he feels Janica is trying to replace his mom. I know my wife isn't trying to do that. So yesterday before bed we had a talk which became a fight after I told her that Arian is not a replacement for our dead son, and he's his own person. She got very angry at me, called me an idiot, and hasn't talked to me all morning. She's at her parents' with Arian right now, and isn't coming back later in the day. I don't know if I was wrong and should apologize. I'd bring it up in therapy, but the shrink is on vacation. I'm sorry for the big backstory, it's just so you can understand where I came from when I said what I did. I was trying to protect Arian so I don't feel wrong, but I didn't want to hurt Janica. Was I really an idiot to say that to her? Edit. Things have happened and the situation isn't as bad as I thought it was. I will post an update here in a week or so. Maybe I'll keep responding to comments until then though. Now for a few comments before the update. That is a lot to unpack. You stated yourself that you pushed his mother away with your prior behavior, so wanting to blame her for not being part of your son's life prior to this is you're the idiot move. There had to be a better way to broach this subject, and certainly a more empathetic way. Obviously you are no stranger to therapy. Why hasn't family therapy been brought up as an option? Clearly there needs to be better communication between all of you, and probably a clearing of the air is necessary. Then the poster responds with, I know I'm wrong to want to blame her. I was such a terrible person to her. But I can't just lose that feeling as much as I want to wish it away. I offered full family therapy to my son, but he refused, and when I insisted it seemed like he would cry, so I told him we'd continue just me and him as long as he wanted. Comment 2. You're the idiot. You've conflated two unrelated matters, a dead child which you don't seem to show any emotion about, and a woman working very hard to welcome a teenage boy into the family, to actively work against the negative stereotype of stepmother. What an amazing woman. Your comment was mean. And you sound jealous of your wife. If Arian has an issue, beyond sharing his feelings in a therapy session, then it sounds like your wife is capable and considerate enough to work through it with him. Now for the update. So it's been a bit, Christmas passed and things have gotten a lot better. For people wondering why Janica took Arian to her parents, he likes being there. Her parents remind him of his grandparents. As for Arian's name, where Brown, it's common. It's not his real name, but I didn't think twice about using it. After reading the initial comments, I realized how badly I messed up and took my daughters with me to my in-laws. My wife was with Arian in a bedroom, and he'd had a breakdown. He was crying really bad in her arms, saying he was sorry, and he wanted his mom back over and over again. It scared me cause this was me after my dad died. Apparently Janica tried to talk to him about her smothering him, and it triggered him. We got him to calm down and go to sleep before we had our talk. I apologized right away for what I said to Janica. I told her I was too scared about Arian and too stupid to think about what I said. She pointed out to me she knows I'm stressed as it's my father's death anniversary this month, but it wasn't an excuse for what I said, no matter how out of character it was. She admitted she let grief for our baby get the best of her for a while, but pointed out I repressed all my grief to the point where I act like it wasn't also my baby. I wanted to say she was wrong, but she isn't. Some of you realize that, and you don't even know me. I admitted I don't know what to do and would do whatever she thought was best. She decided we would restart our couples therapy so we can properly process our grief. Thankfully, she forgave me cause I guess after nearly 25 years she can tell I'm really sorry. Janica agreed we couldn't let the girls feel envious of Arian. So, when school comes back I'll wake up early with her to make lunch for everyone. We'll help everyone with homework together during a study hour, and anything else too. I see now it's not that Janica focused on Arian over the girls, but that I didn't step up to help her give them all equal time. As for Arian, he's agreed to let Janica join our therapy sessions and hopefully soon the girls too. On Christmas, I got him a big portrait of his mother, and had Janica sign it as being from her. I think I reassured him that she isn't trying to replace his mother cause he gave her a huge hug and said thank you mom after opening it. I hung it up in his room by his bed. He was also happy when Janica asked about taking him clothes shopping for family photos, which he refused to be in before. He seemed happier as I'm writing this. He's playing with his sisters on their new PS4. I know it'll take time, but I want him to stay happy and know he's loved. I want him to be a better man than I am, and I know I need to be a better man for Janica. So I guess thanks guys, reading your comments was the kick in the ass I needed. Comment 1. To state it bluntly, you have a lot of issues to sort through, but you absolutely deserve credit for having enough self-awareness to recognize this, a willingness to proactively address it through therapy, and enough humility to admit when you frick up. That makes you a better person than 99% of the assholes who post here. I respect it. Comment 2. It's so nice reading about people like you, who had an issue, worked through it, and came out stronger and closer as a family. You are all great for communicating maturely and putting an effort in uplifting each other so that everyone gets to have a happy relationship with one another. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my wife she is neglecting our son? I, 23, male, am married to my wife, Dana, 25, female. I work and she takes care of the house and our son, James, almost 3. I work every day from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., sometimes later depending on the shift. Before I go to work, I change and dress James. He is a light sleeper and wakes up to my alarm, and I try make sure he is all set for my wife to take care of him. I even lay out his lunch and snacks, so all she has to do is play with him and give him lunch. Well, over the last month or so I will come home to see James sitting in front of the TV, as my wife sits on the couch and reads. His diaper is almost always full. This makes me so mad, and I try to tell her in the nicest way possible that she needs to start playing with him, changing him at the very least. Well, 3 days ago I came home from work, with some KFC for us to eat, and James was in front of the TV, not changed, and not even fed. Let me repeat that. He was not fed lunch. She was on the couch reading. This put me over the edge. I simply couldn't believe it. Well, here is where I might be the idiot. I set the food down, filled a cup with cold water and poured it over her crotch, and told her that she couldn't have dinner. OFC, she started yelling and asked why. I pointed to my son. I told her that if our son was treated like this, then she should at least know what it's like to be uncomfortable and unfed. She said that I would have no idea how hard it is to be a mom because I work all the time. I said, well, at least I take care of James, at least I don't neglect him. She said, fine, you are taking care of him then. And left. She's been staying with her moms, and all of her siblings have been calling me and telling me I need to apologize. And what an idiot I am for calling her neglectful and pouring water on her. Am I the idiot? What should I do? Edit, I am sure that he isn't being taken care of. Based on the fact that when I get home he is very hungry, and when I ask her if he has been fed and changed she will never give me a clear answer. It's always, he shouldn't need it. Or, isn't it okay for him to go a couple hours and even? I'm too tired for this conversation. Also, I love my wife. I know it probably doesn't seem like it, but I do. I want to help her, but she just keeps saying I need to back off, and that she is perfectly fine and doesn't need any help. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. Tell her not to come back until she gets therapy because something is obviously wrong with her. You need to protect your son. Neglect is a form of abuse. Comment 2. Not enough info or everyone sucks here. I am astounded at the number of people who think this type of abusive behavior from a spouse is okay. This is new behavior, and OP doesn't seem to have made any meaningful attempt at conversation other than play with him. Change his diaper. Diapers fill up quickly. It doesn't necessarily mean he's been languishing in poop for hours. Also, sometimes kids won't eat. They eat when they want to eat. Was the kid crying and desperately hungry? If so, a major issue. If the prepared lunch wasn't eaten but the kid is still chilling happy as a clam, no issue. There's just not enough info, and it doesn't even feel like OP has ever bothered to use his words and find out. OP's wife may be neglectful. She may be abusive. She may be struggling with mental illness. She may be a jerk. She may be sick. She may be a lot of things. There's not enough info to make a call. Now for the update. I feel since some of my actions were affected by you guys, I should update you on the situation. So a couple days after I posted she came home, I let her get situated and then sat her down for a talk. What I should have done in the first place, I set some very clear boundaries. James has to be fed and played with, and she should only revive 30 minutes of TV a day. Then I asked if she was okay and what's been going on. She said that it has been incredibly hard for her to even get out of bed, and that on some days she just hates being a mom. This broke my heart. I told her that if we budget we can afford to get her therapy. We found a woman who looks like a good fit, and her first session was yesterday. Already my wife seems to be doing better, so hopefully this keeps up. I also asked if she would like to get a job 1 to 2 days a week, and I can take James on the days she works. She loved the idea and they were cute job hunting for her. Hopefully this will make things easier for my son and for her. Thank you all again. Comment 1. I'm glad there's a plan in action, but I wouldn't rest on your laurels. Continue monitoring your son because that was abuse that he was subjected to. But I'm glad your wife is getting therapy. Wish you all the best. Comment 2. This is great, but you also need to focus some time and energy on your son's development. A 3-year-old shouldn't be diaper dependent. He should be well and truly undergoing or finished potty training by now. The neglect has obviously impacted him, so it's important his needs are given priority too. Not being fed in a timely manner, etc. is definitely not great, but missing developmental milestones will have serious long-term implications. Am I the idiot for making my son do an after-school activity? All of my kids have done extracurricular activities. My oldest did cheerleading. My second drama. My youngest is in art. My 16-year-old, Seth, doesn't want to do his current activity anymore. I said, okay, what do you want to do instead? Seth said he doesn't want to do an activity anymore. I said that's not fair to everyone else, and he needs to pick something. He said he wants to play video games. I said, okay, we'll find a video game club. He said no, he wants to stay home and play video games. I nixed that idea. Seth had an outburst and lost electronic privileges for the weekend. He's currently not talking to me. He called his mom on his brother's phone, and she emailed me to say I'm a jerk. His oldest brother thinks I need to communicate better. His other older brother thinks he's a spoiled brat, and I should punish him more. I just think he needs to do an enriching activity. Seth needs to develop social skills before he goes to college, or trade school or employment, or whatever he wants to do, and activities and clubs are a great way to do that. On the other hand, he's 16. So if he's not getting anything from it by now, should I save myself the expense and just let him do whatever he wants? Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. But not because it isn't fair. Your almost adult needs to be gaining life skills right now. And those come from extracurricular or an after-school job. They do not come from going to school and then gaming for 8 hours. I'm down with the video game club, or esports, or whatever. He can find something that teaches social skills, competition, winning and losing gracefully, etc., that fits with his interests. That's how you become a full human, and he should then, after school work and whatever chores are taken care of and his extracurricular/job is done, be allowed to frick off and game for pure enjoyment, because balancing your responsibilities with your free time is a huge life skill that a lot of kids I went to college with a few decades ago didn't master, and that is as big of a deal as any of it. Reframe your argument. And have a loving, two-way conversation about responsibilities and learning and balance and whatever. But don't use the fairness approach. Comment 2, you're the idiot. Some people are introverts. Let him be. Show interest in him. Play video games with him. High school is exhausting, he socializes all day. You need to adapt your parenting to each individual child, not apply the same rules to all of them. Sounds like one of his brothers is jealous though, so you might need to address that with that brother. Now for the update. After some back and forth with my son, we agreed on an activity for him. At first he said he would go with the part-time job option I suggested. When he realized most places wouldn't accept an employee working 1 4-hour shift a week, he gave up on that idea. Volunteering was also considered and discarded. Finally, he said he was going to learn his mother's language. She was never really around enough for him to pick it up from her. However, it is a part of his heritage and something he is interested in learning. So he's going to spend 15 minutes a day working on this language, which amounts to almost 2 hours a week, which is normal for an extracurricular. The online lessons he will be taking let him learn at his own pace, which appeals to him. We're also going back to family therapy to talk about the stress of a relationship ending and transitioning to adulthood. It'll be 6 sessions over 6 months. Seth is annoyed about this, but I think it will help us communicate better. Comment 1. Still don't get how video games are not an enriching activity. 90% of the skills of my today job came from the knowledge I collected from my interest in video games. My English made tremendous jumps because of games. I met my wife around some corners through video games. Our best friends too. Before my promotion, I went back to school and went from E to B in French, learning through series and video games, and even made my final exam on a video game from France which scored an A. Comment 2. I read the earlier post and am happy to learn that the two of you are figuring something out. Learning something new like a language is a great activity, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the two of you. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like. It really helps the channel grow. See you next time.